Welcome to Hiking Tales from the Mountain Trails with the Over the Hill Hiking Group. Tonight you're going to see some really amazing pictures that show what we do on our hiking trips over a 5-state area. And every one of these pictures was made by Susie Downing. And after every one of our hikes, we have a Word document trip report and we have a Susie slideshow. So we have a great record of all our hikes. And Susie went through the shots from 3 or 4 years and made a highlight reel. She gave those pictures to Jerry Cooley, and he put those on a PowerPoint presentation that you're going to see tonight. And Taylor Penley got this on the church computer and to enable us to do this tonight. And we've got some professional video people here. We've got Chuck Rogers and Paul Womack, both Oak Grove members, and we really appreciate them. So we'll have a great record of this for the Over the Hill hikers. And this slide here from Virginia Sal, who's on our church staff, who's also one of our hikers and a great photographer, went through her pictures and made this poster that you've probably seen in the hallways, on the church website, in the church bulletin, and somehow she got 66 hikers on this poster. It's amazing. So, and then last but not least, I want to recognize Darvin Poole, who brought all this great barbecue down from Ellijay today. And if you thought that barbecue was good tonight, let me tell you, when you eat it in a restaurant and it's right out of the pit or right out of the kitchen, it's even better. So when you're going to North Georgia to see the fall colors, to go apple picking or take a walk to a waterfall, have Poole's Barbecue at Ellijay on your itinerary for lunch or supper, and they're open Thursday through Sunday every week. So you'll see the pigs on the hill. That's what Bull says. So let's see what these over the hill hikes are like. This is the way all of them start out. From our very first hike in April 2009 in Bartow County, when there was just Darvin Poole, Jim Little, and myself. That's the original Over the Hill hikers, all here tonight. We started a hike with a prayer. And our most recent hike was Saturday at Providence Canyon, and it started with a prayer. And the lady leading our prayer right there is one of the most prolific hikers in America. She lacks only a few miles in the Smoky Mountains to be a 900-miler, having completed all 900 miles in the Smokies. She has actually hiked over 1,100 miles to get to that point. And because sometimes the trails start deep in the back country and you have to hike all day on trails you've already been on to get to those trails. And her goal every year is 1,200 miles, but by August or September, she's already way past that usually. That's Barbara McCullum. And this is the lady that makes all our pictures. And she's not in many of them, but she let me use her camera. So I wanted to get her early into the slideshow so you can see Susie Downing, and she is out on Pickens Nose in the Nantahala National Forest near Otto, North Carolina, and where she's standing is 5,000 feet in elevation. But you can see these mountains tower high above that. In fact, on this particular hike, our next stop was Albert Mountain, which is exactly 1 mile high, 5,280, and it has a 70-foot fire tower on top, built in 1933. And then I wanted to feature our first hike, my favorite place. This is Mount LeConte in the Smoky Mountains, and it's 6,593 feet in elevation, the highest mountain from base to peak in eastern America. And they have log cabins up there built in the 1920s and 30s, and the supplies are brought up by llamas. And they have fabulous meals up there. And you can see we're gathered around the dining table, no electricity, no running water, but it is a fabulous place. July the 19th this year will be my 50th trip up there, and we have 34 over-the-hill hikers joining me to help celebrate that. And even though they say that getting a reservation at Mount LeConte is harder than getting a Super Bowl ticket, we still managed 34 reservations for this year. Now, at supper time every night, they will tell you what time sunset is and where to go. And so you take a little hike up to a rocky cliff that's called Cliff Top, and everybody gets up there about 20 or 30 minutes before the sunset and watches. You can see out over the whole Smoky Mountain range, and you watch the different shades of colors as the sun drops by. And I love this picture of Susie and Morgan's feet. They're lying down on their back and watching the sun disappear over the furthest mountain range away. It's just an unforgettable experience. And when Susie got ready to go to breakfast the next morning, when she walked out the cabin, one of the permanent residents up there was already eating breakfast. We see a lot of deer, and we have seen 19 bears. We see rattlesnakes and copperheads too, but with our big group, it's still amazing that we see all this wildlife. We saw about 7 wild turkeys Saturday. And it's such an accomplishment to get to Mount LeConte that they change the date every day over the dining room door, and we always have a departure picture. So this is July the 21st last year, and you can see, even though this is July, everybody's in jackets, it's 36 degrees. I was up there on the 20th and the 30th of July last year. It was 36 on the 20th and 38 on the 30th. So it's a completely different world. Darv and I were up there 2009, it was 31 degrees in July. But you don't have to go too far outside Atlanta to have good hiking trails. This is just right north of 285 on 75, Kennesaw Mountain. And there's 3 mountains there: Pigeon Hill, Little Kennesaw, Big Kennesaw, and then miles and miles of trails around and going west from Pigeon Hill. And looked like the hiker ladies have, Dale's got on the wrong side of them, but they didn't have a big enough charge in that cannon there. He caught the cannonball. But I bet he got the message there. Don't mess with the hiker ladies. Now this is one exit east of 285 on I-20. First exit, Panola Mountain. It's another treasure in metro Atlanta, and it's a state conservation park, and because of that, the normal person that goes to Panola Mountain can take a 3/4 mile nature trail, and that's about it. We get a private Secrets of Panola backcountry hike that's up to 11.5 miles. We've got that coming up March 27th, and so this is the top of Panola Mountain, and from there you can see downtown Atlanta skyline, you can see Stone Mountain, you can see Arabia Mountain, and Stone Mountain would probably look a lot like this if they didn't let people walk all over the top, but you can only go up there with a guided trip, and that's called a dimorpha pool, and this is all this moss, and it had rained the night before, so that made it extra special this day that we were there. We have to go single file, as you see, because one step in there might take 20 years to regenerate where you stepped, and that's why Stone Mountain doesn't have any of that. At Panola, they have 3 different of these balancing rocks that nobody will ever see because they're all in the back country, and they're quite amazing and must weigh tons and tons and have probably been there for thousands of years. And then, going west from Atlanta, the next exit past Six Flags is Sweetwater Creek State Park. And there's a lot of history there because this mill was the tallest building in Atlanta during the Civil War. And they made equipment for the Confederate Army, so the Union Army came and destroyed the mill, and you can still see cannonball holes in the walls there. And the Sweetwater Creek is every bit as wild and big as the Chattooga River. It's not just a creek, it's a river. And this is the best place in Georgia to see spring wildflowers, and maybe the best in the entire southeast. We're lucky this day, the guy right back there maintains the wildflower.com, and he goes to Shirley Miller Trail every week and gives a report on what flowers are there. And the great thing about Shirley Miller Trail is it's handicap accessible. Anybody in here could do that because it's a boardwalk, and we see people on wheelchairs or walkers, and it has little cul-de-sacs that go back in the coves. And sometimes when we're hiking, we might see 2 or 3 celandine poppies or 3 or 4 Virginia bluebells. Here you might see 5,000 or 6,000 of them, and Trillium grandiflorum, and every kind of wildflower you can imagine. There's a stream that comes down the middle of the cove. It's near west of Lafayette, Georgia, to give you an idea where it is. And sometimes we run into some of these other critters on the trail. This one's not really as close as it looks. Susie used a zoom lens, and it's a good guy. It's not a bad guy. But it was out on a log in a little boggy area up the hill from Shirley Miller Trail. We always do a little more exploring up there. And here's his buddy on a hackberry tree here, the old gecko. When we go to Cloudland Canyon State Park, it has 2 great waterfalls. The West Rim Trail there by Backpacker Magazine says is one of the top 25 trails in the lower 48 states. And there are even better trails at Cloudland Canyon in my opinion, so it's a great place to go. But we always get our picture made by this big overhang, like we're doing a good deed by holding it up. This is where we were Saturday. Donna Jones back there by the door, and the yellow pool shirt has a wonderful home at Fort Gaines on Lake Walter F. George. And we hiked in Alabama on Friday, and on Saturday, looks like the Grand Canyon, doesn't it? It's the Georgia Grand Canyon, and it's not that old. It started by bad cotton farming, erosion, where they didn't take care of the land, and it was only like 3 to 5 feet deep in the late 1880s. So every time we go, it's deeper. It's not deeper, it's wider. It's about reached its depth. The colors are just like the Grand Canyon. It's really amazing. And the white is the kaolin, and it doesn't erode as fast as the clay. So that's why a lot of the columns are white in there. So it's a real special place to go visit. South of Columbus, to give you an idea. Here I am at the beginning of the Benton MacKaye Trail. Everybody knows about the Appalachian Trail. It starts at Springer Mountain. It's 2,169 miles to Maine. And the Benton MacKaye Trail is 300 miles, and it goes to the Davenport Gap on the other end of the Smokies. It also starts at Springer Mountain. And while the Appalachian Trail will head straight north, the Benton MacKaye Trail makes some snaky loops, and there's all kinds of great loop trails you can do right there. You'll see a lot of the Appalachian Trail through hikers. And my daddy was a hiking buddy of Benton MacKaye, and Daddy helped him lay out the Appalachian Trail north of what the Smoky Mountains is now. And of course, Benton MacKaye founded the Appalachian Trail, and the Benton MacKaye Trail is named for him. And when we're eating our peanut butter sandwich on one of our hikes, everybody is very jealous of Jerry Cooley because he's got his turbo bowl there. And his turbo bowl consists of a big bowl of yogurt with pecans in there and fresh strawberries and granola with Eddie Minch honey on top. So Cooley is showing off his turbo bowl there. And not all our hikes are a walk in the park here. We do a lot of bushwhacking off trail, but this one is actually on a trail where there was a big blowdown. And Kay has just made it across this blowdown, and Ricky's coming in behind her, and this is in one of the very remote areas of the Smoky Mountains called the Road to Nowhere. Now, you can ask, there's many over-the-hill hikers here, you can ask them what the hardest hike we do is, you know. And a lot of them will say, Raven Ball, that was the hardest ever, you know, and some will say, Jack's Knob, and some will say the Wagon Train Trail, but most of them will say Rich Mountain. And you can see there's no trail. There's somebody coming up over there. There's somebody over there. And you have to do it in the winter because you have to do it before the briars get out and the leaves get on the trees and all. We've got a couple of our hikers that have a home, 27 acres, that 10 feet off their back porch here in the Rich Mountain Wilderness. And it's near Blue Ridge, Ellijay area. And so they've lived there 21 years and said they've never seen another hiker. That's how remote it is. And generally speaking, the best we can do for a trail is find out where a wild boar's kind of rooted it up a little bit and follow that up. We go over Wolf Pen Mountain and Ramp Gap and Technically Ball and then Rich Mountain. And here's our destination. In the early 1900s, they had a fire tower up on Rich Mountain, 4,080 feet, and it was built out of chestnut logs, and it's long fallen down, but the clamps and bolts are still in those logs, and the chestnut logs are still, you know, the black got all the chestnut trees, I guess, you know, and so, but these logs are really special there. And this is the cabin where the caretaker lived. And there was no water on top. He had an old rain barrel over there where he got the water off his roof. That was his water supply. You can see how long ago it was used because that tree right there and that one would be inside the house, you know, so that's long abandoned. But the chimney, no mortar, just stacked up there, is still there. Okay, when my son gets sometimes off and gets to hike with me, it's a treat. But when my son and daughter both get to hike with me, it's really great. Katie came all the way from Colorado, and this will show you when to go for the colors. Come to the Oak Road Barbecue on the 3rd Saturday in October, and this is the 4th weekend. So that's when the colors are the best, as you can see. And we're standing in 5,999 feet. And that's the tallest place that the Appalachian Trail crosses south of the Smoky Mountains. But sadly, that whole area was burned up badly in the big Rock Mountain fire last year. So it's coming back a little bit, but it'll be a long time before it looked like this anymore. This right here, most of our hikes are either Tuesday and Thursday. They're day hikes. And even on very heavily used trails, we hardly see anybody. But we have, every year we have 4 to 6 overnight trips. And this is one of our greatest ones. There's really nothing like this in Eastern America. It's one of the newest national parks on the Tennessee-Kentucky border. There's 2 of these natural arches that are over 100 feet tall that are side by side, and they're 2 of the largest in the world. And you would think you were at Bryce Canyon or Arches or Zion, except you're in a rainforest here. This is Big South Fork, and we're going May the 18th. We got 30 people going. This is where we're going, and when we get there, the log cabins, there's 490 national park units all over the country. These buildings are the oldest buildings in the entire national park system, 201 years old. So we go in there and we stay in there. They got wood stoves in there. They got solar showers and oil lamps. You bring a headlight and a flashlight. And our friend Greg White, who runs the place, has owned 3 restaurants, and we have the greatest meals you can imagine. And where's Jack Halsell? He can tell you for sure when they have chicken and dumplings. And here we are in the dining room, eaten by oil lamp in the 201-year-old buildings. Fabulous meal. We have a great time together, and every year we get the whole place rented out. And on our way home, we come to this little crossroads, I mean in the middle of nowhere, and the R.M. Brooks General Store, 101 years old. It's part museum, part general store. They got the community post office in there. They got a pot-belly stove where the old boys chew tobacco and whittle and solve all the problems. They got the great big old hoop cheese, and they call it rat trap cheese. And they make the best fried pies you can imagine. They got a sign by them that says, "Skinny people are easy to kidnap. Play it safe, eat fried pies." But this particular year, there was a bigger crowd than normal, and we looked out back, and they were having a classic car show, and they had all these mint condition, restored trucks and cars out there, and they had a bluegrass band out there. And old Charlie told Tiffany, the granddaughter of the woman that makes the fried pies, that the over-the-hill hikers could sing Thunder Road. So Charlie went up and hijacked the guitar from the band, you know. So I'm leading us in Thunder Road, and there's Mike, and there's Elizabeth and Jack, and we got the whole crowd singing Thunder Road. Now this is another great place we go to. This is in the Joyce Kilmer Slick Rock Wilderness in North Carolina. And it's a swan cabin. It sits between 3,000 and 4,000 feet in elevation. And you drive an hour on a dirt road to get here. No water, no electricity, but 10 people can sleep in here, and you can pitch tents out in the lawn there. And we use it, we have it, Charlie pays for 4 days, gives it as a donation to the Over the Hill Hikers, and we use that as our base camp and hike out of there. And my daddy hiked in the Smokies for, before there was a national park, before there was a national forest, and before there were many trails, he hiked 1,000 miles or more. And my friend Reba Haynes, who was the first 900-miler in the lady in the Smokies, asked him what was his favorite hike, and he said the Hangover, and I'd never been before. So we hiked up from the Swan Cabin to the Hangover, and from the Hangover you can see, I mean, 360, and you see no sign of civilization. You look down and there's Fontana Lake, there's Lake Santilla. Here's Shuckstack Fire Tower, which is one of 3 left in the Smokies. You can see the tower on Cleman's Dome. On a clear day, you can see Mount Mitchell, which is the highest mountain in eastern America. And it's a place you just don't want to leave once you get there. So Reba said once Daddy told her about that, she went 7 straight years in October there. And I can't imagine what it looked like in October, but I can't go in October because of the barbecue. Now, here's a place we go every February, and it's Georgia's backcountry treasure. You start out like you're going to the Appalachian Trail on Springer Mountain, and you branch off to the top of a mountain, and it's a Linfoot hike-in, and they have wood stoves and solar showers, composting toilets, wonderful meals. And this year they have 20 bunk rooms, and we had all 20 rooms. We had 36 people there. And this particular year, we went up in 9.5 inches of snow. But Darv was well prepared. He had his winter shorts on. He had Kroger sacks around his ankles to keep his socks dry. And he had a laundry sack, a laundry bag. He cut a neck out and arms out for his jacket. But they love it when the over-the-hill hikers come, because in addition to his backpack, he's got a fully cooked Boston butt with Poole's original sauce in there that he takes up for the staff up there at Linfoot Hike-In. And one of the real favorite things every year at Hike In, they got 14 mountain ranges out from the sunrise room, and they get the coffee ready real early, and we watch the sun come up over those 14 mountain ranges. We met this old boy twice. You know, when we come back from Lynn Foot, we take a connector trail over the Springer Mountain Trail, which goes to the beginning of the Appalachian Trail. And February and March is when all the through hikers start north. And, you know, last month we saw people from all over the world, many states and different countries. And this old boy here, his last name is Boner. He's from Ohio, always hikes alone, so his trail name is Loner Boner. He's 74, and he's already hiked the entire Appalachian Trail twice, and he was heading north to do it a third time. He has all his belongings in this huge backpack. Look at that big pack. Loner Boner. He was heading north. And when we come down from Lynn Foot, we always go to the Edge of the World Falls on the Amicalola River. And this is another one that's easily accessed. It's a boardwalk. Anybody could come all the way down with a wheelchair, except there was a tree falling across it this year. But usually that time of year there's been lots of rain, so the water is amazing in the river. It's a big trout fishing stream, and it's called the Edge of the World because people come by in a kayak, and all of a sudden it gets calm and still, and it looks like it just drops off the edge of the world. So it's a big rapid. And this place right here, this is always a 3-day trip. This year, July the 9th, 10th, and 11th. And we go not on any maps, not on any brochures, 10,000 acre wilderness, 11 waterfalls. The headwaters is the Tuckasegee River. It was owned by Duke Power Company, and they were going to sell it to the developer. And the Nature Conservancy was able to get hold of it and hold it until the National Forest Service could allocate money. So they have this, it's called the Yosemite of the East, the second highest standing valley in the United States. It's a real treasure that's just now available to the public. And when we first started hiking in there, we never saw anybody, but the word's getting out about it now. But we go in, this is Granny Burrell Falls, one of the 11 waterfalls. And this is where we always eat lunch. This day we started over here at Salt Rock entrance, that's Black Mountain, and we're on the Coal Mountain end. And this valley is the second highest standing valley in the United States. And we just finished lunch and getting our packs back on. We're going down to Schoolhouse Falls. We had 19 people get in behind that waterfall this year. It's like you almost need a helmet that crashes down, and all the swimming holes we go to, we say Schoolhouse Falls has the coldest water. And our reward after all day hike, 9, 10, one year, Warren Rary timed us at 14 hours and 28 minutes in Panther Town. We got lost a few times that time. But anyway, Jack Halsell has a beautiful home on Sparkling Lake in Highlands, North Carolina, and he always has everybody on our hiking list that wants to come. We had 21 people on his front porch, and Ricky is the grill master, and Cindy is the assistant grill master, and no matter if you order your steak rare or well done, Ricky gets them off the grill at the same time. We have the greatest, I don't know how he does it, but that's why he's the grill master, I guess. You might say the trail boss was hungry as a bear this time, right here. This is one of our favorite places to eat, and you probably can't read that, the ones up close can. To not look like a out-of-towner or a city slicker, you got to know how to order there. You got to order the meat by the letter and the vegetables by the number. So I'm having a U, a 2, a 7, and CB. And that's my U is the chicken livers, 2 is the pinto beans, 7's the Silver Queen cream corn, the CB's the cornbread, and you can't see my sweet tea. Doug's place is over 100 years old, and it looks it. Now here's our favorite place to eat. I'll tell you, Fish Fry Friday at Loretta's. I mean, you just can't beat this. And this is Susie's plate right there. She's got 2 pieces of catfish. She's got the hush puppy. She's got a roll. She got the world famous squash casserole, tomatoes, green beans, sweet tea, and nanner pudding. Oh man, you just can't. And I'll tell you, that costs less than $10, right, Chuck? Well, Chuck knows. Chuck knows about Doug's place too, right? Yes, sir. Okay, once a year, sometimes in the spring, sometimes in the fall, we take what we bill as the hike of the year, and we try to keep it a secret where we go, because we go up to 6 waterfalls. They're not on any trails. Each one is better than any waterfall you can drive to or hike to on a trail. In fact, Sharon Collins, I got her involved, and she made a TV special called Mountain Magic that's been on TV 7 times. It is so spectacular. Here I am by one of the unnamed waterfalls, and here's another one. But to get to these waterfalls, we got 15 or 20 river or creek crossings, crawl under rhododendron, over logs, up boulders, up steep mountains, down valleys. And there I'm leading Eddie Minch across the river. Eddie Minch is another one of our prolific women hikers in the Over the Hill hiking group. She started a few years ago in Mexico and hiked to Canada by herself, 2,668 miles, carried all her food and equipment. The high mountains is 15,500 feet, the Pacific Crest Trail. And here's another one of our stream crossings, and you can see no trail on this side, no trail on that side. We just needed to go over there, and the creek was in the way. Some people wear old tennis shoes, some river shoes, some rubber boots. But Eva, being a mountain girl, she just barefoot across there. Here's a couple Oak Grove girls getting ready to cross the stream, and Steph already has her boots off and her river shoes on, and Donna is taking her socks and boots off to cross this stream right here. And when you're hiking off trail, you got to watch out for these guys. Once again, this is a good guy, a friendly little blue-eyed garter snake. And I mentioned the Bartram Trail earlier as one of the 4 long-range trails in Georgia. It starts in the War Woman Dale and goes up through North Carolina up to Wayaball. This waterfall, Martin Creek Falls, is on the Bartram Trail. And to get to this one, you also have to pass Becky Branch Falls, which is another beautiful waterfall. Now, anytime we go swimming, Ricky is the first one in the water. Ann tried to beat him, but she didn't do it. You go up here, it gets up over your head out there. You go up here and you sit there and let the water crash down. But Ricky gets over here in the jacuzzi there and lets it really pound down on him. And there's Ricky in Big Creek. Big Creek starts at the base of Whiteside Mountain in North Carolina and comes into Georgia, and it merges right past Ricky's feet. Overflow Creek comes in, and then right past it, Holcomb Creek comes in. This is in a wilderness area, so there's no maintained or marked trails in here, but it's called Three Forks, and when those 3 come together, that's the beginning of the Chattooga River. And Jim Wright says this is the prettiest place I've ever eaten lunch. And here we are at Turtletown Falls. And Turtletown is near Turtletown, Tennessee. And if you don't know where that is, the next town is Dogtown, and the next town is Ducktown. So right after this picture was made, Ed Sullivan sitting by John Ballard there, he and Darv jumped in the creek. There's 2 waterfalls on Turtletown Creek. The other one's hourglass shape. And what I didn't know is this was my birthday, and they had a big surprise party for me at Poole's Barbecue after the hike. This right here, you know, If you look at a map of North Georgia, there's a lot of green because between the Chattahoochee National Forest and the Oconee National Forest, there's nearly 700,000 acres of protected land. And it doesn't end there. Right across the Tennessee line is the Cherokee National Forest. Right across the North Carolina line is the Nantahala National Forest. Right across the mighty Chattooga River is the Sumter National Forest in South Carolina. But in addition, there's lots of other protected land. And this is private land and the most awesome waterfall in Georgia by no comparison. It looks like Niagara Falls. It's over 100 feet tall and the water roars across there and the mist coming down like a quarter of a mile down the stream. You just get soaked with the water coming over that. And there's another waterfall up higher and a big lake. It looks like a Caribbean Sea. And this place has 8,000 acres. It's privately owned, called the Lula Lake Land Trust. And every now and then they'll have a random open gate day in the summer. But the over the hill hikers, because we've got some people that work on trails there, we get to have our own private visit for the 8,000 acres and all these waterfalls and things. It's a fabulous place. The biggest wilderness area in Eastern America is in the Georgia-Tennessee border. You got the Cohutta Wilderness in Georgia and the Big Frog Wilderness in Tennessee. You can't tell where one ends and the other begins. And that combined is all wilderness area, the headwaters of the Jacks River and the Conasauga River. This is Emery Creek. There were about 15 creek crossings on this hike. At Pools Barbecue, they have 3,500 pigs on the hill. It's called the Pig Hill of Fame. So you can get your own pig on there, but you got to qualify. You got to have an honest face, good intentions, and a $5 bill, and they'll waive 2 of those 3. Only the first 2, Dar said. Okay, you can see I've got the biggest pig and Cooley's got the biggest pig over here. Cheryl is very happy pointing out her pig. But you can see I outranked Paul Coverdale, Saxby Shamus, Newt Gingrich, and Cooley ranks Mitt Romney and John McCain. And here's Frank and Elsa over here. They're a couple over the hill hikers too. So you can get your own pig at Pools. And they have 3 kinds of fried pies at Pools: apple, peach, and blackberry. But if you get the blackberry, you might look like these old snaggle-tooth hillbilly girls that show. And if you eat too much barbecue, that's what happens. So that's why we mix it up a little bit. Sometimes we go to a home cooking place instead of just a barbecue place. This is one of my favorite pictures because it's one of my favorite places. This is on the Benton MacKay Trail, and it's the George Owen Overlook, and it's named for a guy named George Owen who is world famous for trail maintenance, hike leading. He leads trips over in the Alps, and he's a tireless worker, hiker, organizer, and I think it's well deserved to have this overlook named for him. And it's a place where we eat lunch and almost never want to leave. So it's equally beautiful in the spring when the different colors of green are coming out. But this is, once again, the week after the Oak Grove Barbecue. So come to the Oak Grove Barbecue and go to the mountains on the 4th week. This is a place probably nobody knows about except over the hill hikers that have been there. Between New Orleans and Washington, D.C., this is the highest viaduct on the Amtrak train. It's 200-foot tall columns over the Broad River in the Lake Russell Wildlife Management Area. And we've been there 3 times, and we've been lucky each time to be there that a train has come by. And so it's really exciting to see, because you can see through the railroad ties and the rails up there. You can see where that train comes by. It's called the Wells Viaduct. This right here is the most beautiful trail we've been on. It's also the most remote place in the Smokies you can drive to. And it's only open a little over 3 months a year because the snows are so deep. But it looks like a park. It's called Balsam Mountain. And the elk that they released in Cataloochee have found this place, and they love it, and you can see why. This trail is called the Flat Creek Trail. And most of our hikes are rain or shine. So here's a couple of Oak Grove ladies, Cindy and Virginia. You can see they're happy as a lark even though the rain is coming down. So we're rain or shine unless it's going to be a real bad storm. In the spring when we're hiking, we're excited when we see a little patch of 3 or 4 pink lady slippers. But I ran into this place a few years ago. Thousands, literally thousands. And when I did my trip report, Charlie Seabrook back there, who writes Wild Georgia for the AJC every Saturday, he called me up and says, I gotta go. I says, the peak is past, Charlie. And he went anyway, and he rode up and so now he goes with the over the hill hikers at the right time every year now. But there are so many thousands of them that the whole mountainside has a pink haze to it. It's unbelievable. This is in the Cooper Creek Wildlife Management Area, Blairsville, probably about the nearest town. And when we eat barbecue after going to the Pink Lady Slipper hike, we eat at Jim's Smokin' Q in Blairsville. And if you've driven around North Georgia, you've probably seen their billboards. It says, you can smell our butts for miles. They painted up these propane tanks here to look like pigs, and so Susie wanted an all-girls picture here, and then she saw Charlie over there, and she said, Charlie, come over here with us. So we call that Charlie's Angels. And when we're hiking, you know, in the National Forest, a lot of that land was, like in the Lake Russell Wildlife Management Area, there were 5 towns at one time, you know. And then when you go out to Pigeon Mountain, there were a lot of towns and farming communities there. The water table dropped and they all moved out when their wells dried up. So we run into old farms. We'll find farming equipment, standing chimneys, rock walls, a lot of old vehicles. And Susie and Lina are trying to get this one started up, but looks like the good old boys have used it for target practice. It's got a lot of bullet holes in it. This right here is a spur trail off the Appalachian Trail. This is Siler's Ball, and the trail goes on up and around up in here, and that's where the 360 view is. You can look down on Nantahala Lake, you can look over to Standing Indian, Albert Mountain, Wayaball, and into the mountains near Highlands, North Carolina. It's a fabulous place, and this is west of Franklin, North Carolina. This is the highest point in Georgia that the Appalachian Trail crosses. This is Blood Mountain. This trail shelter is on the National Historic Register. It was built in 1933 by the CCC. Most of the trail shelters are these wooden open face things. This is a 2-room stone cabin, so I mean it's a real substantial shelter, and they recently put new roof on it, but it's in the Blood Mountain Wilderness, so they had to bring these supplies up by mules. And so they had 14-foot long timbers. They wouldn't let them bring them in by helicopter. So one of our hikers' friends invented this swivel system where 2 mules could carry a 14-foot long timber for the roof, and they could go around curves, and one could go up, one down, cross creeks. It's amazing. I got a video, a 26-minute video with Dolly Parton singing Mule Skinner Blues to it. I mean, it's fabulous. And our last hike of the year, Susie always brings reindeer antlers and a Santa hat for the trail boss. So we're a merry-looking group going through the woods, and this is our last hike for 2017, and we're at the tippy top of Miller Trek Trail at Young Harris, And Breast Hill Bow, the highest mountain in Georgia, is in behind us. And so now you've seen what it's like to hike with the Over the Hill hiking group. So.